Today we're going to talk about the Makeup Forever HD Skin Palette. Somehow I was stalking their website at the absolute perfect time and I got their new Tan to Deep palette. Inside of this palette, this is what you get. You get 2 highlighting shades, 4 different blushes, some concealer shades, and then you get some foundation shades. You can use all these shades where you need to use them, but it's supposed to be an all over face palette. Let's start with foundation, I guess. I would assume I'm gonna be this shade right here. So I'm just gonna swatch these 2 on my skin so we can see what they look like. It's actually a really good match. It's kind of dark. Let's try the other shade. Yeah, and I knew I was gonna be in between shades. So I'm gonna mix the 2 of these together. We're gonna see how this is gonna go. But you see, this is the first shade. It's a little too dark for me. And then this is the second shade. It's a little too light. To prep my face, I'm gonna use this Bobbi Brown face base. We want our face to be nice and hydrated before we put on any product so I don't peel throughout the day. I am a peeler. I will peel all over the place. It's very sad, actually. We are just gonna go for it. So I'm gonna jump right into that darker shade. And I'm just using a flat foundation brush. The pans themselves, they're a good size, but you know, that's gonna drive me crazy. That looks dirty already. But the formula itself, it's very, I saw someone describe it as emollient. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's more of a natural skin finish. The reason I really wanted to buy this is because sometimes when I travel, I take my entire face kit. I'm like one of those insane people. And I really wanted to see if I can get my kit smaller when I'm traveling. And now we're gonna go into this lighter shade right here, and we're just gonna mix the 2 on my face. And I would definitely describe this as a light coverage. I have some markings on my cheeks that require a little bit more coverage. And this covered those up, but I could definitely still see my skin underneath. So it's still a really pretty skin-like finish. Now I'm just gonna use this flathead brush. We're just pushing it into the skin. I do want a tiny bit more coverage in certain areas, so I'm just gonna apply that straight onto my face. I'm just gonna go in with the lighter shade because I think the lighter shade will be easier to blend. And I'm applying a little bit more around my nose too. I need a little bit more coverage on my nose. My nose is the oily spot on my face and everywhere else is super dry sometimes. And I have these like weird dark spots right here. So I want to see if that can get covered up with this. So far, it's looking good. And the actual blend itself is very easy. I kind of feel like this is foolproof blending. It blends like in 2 seconds. And it's definitely doing a really good job covering the dark spots I have on my cheek right here. So let's go ahead and go in with some concealer shades. I'll use that lightest shade right here. I noticed that you have to kind of like break the seal on the top to really grab some product. Oh, okay, I wasn't prepared for that. But this is good because we're gonna see how this is gonna blend out because I just applied way too much on this side. But that shows you, hey, the pigment is there. And I'm just applying that all over the top of my lid. I'm prepping for my eyeshadow later. I feel like that could have actually gone really bad because I did apply so much, but it really blends really beautifully on the skin. Okay, let's apply some, but not as much on the other side so I don't have to blend forever. And then taking my flat brush, I'm just blending the foundation shade in to the highlight shade. What do you guys think? I think it looks like your skin, but better. I think I was expecting this to be more of a super duper light coverage, but I'm really happy about the coverage, honestly, because sometimes you buy these expensive palettes and they say that they're gonna be your skin, but better, but really they're just giving your skin. You know, I want it better. If I'm gonna pay $88 for a palette, I want better. So I think this looks really pretty, and I think it'll look really pretty in real life because I still have a beautiful sheen on my skin. I think that's really pretty. Let's do some contouring. So I'm gonna use this shade right here, that beautiful chocolatey contour shade. Well, I may have applied a tiny too much. I feel like I always apply too much product with this brush. She's dense and she likes to be in charge. Okay, so contour that forehead. Little right there. Ooh, I applied too much there. It's okay. Because if you apply too much, that's a great blending test We're gonna see if we're gonna be able to blend this. So we're gonna use our foundation brush. And we're gonna use that to blend all of this in. So far, it's blending very, very nicely. I'm very iffy on if I wanna actually powder my face. I think I'm gonna do a light powder just because I think I'm just used to that. Also, when I'm packing my bags for vacation, taking this in a quick powder, that's not that big of a deal. I'm like super duper oily in certain spots, and then in other spots, I'm not oily at all. So let's not test out anything. So let's go ahead and jump right into the blush. There we go. See, that was more controlled than last time. I used to hate cream blush. Do you know that? I used to hate it. I used to think it was so goofy. I was like, why would I wear this? It just blends into oblivion. But you know, there is a time and a place for light blush versus very intense blush. So we're just tapping that in. Looks really pretty. Now we're gonna go into the bronzing shades. And I'll also be using this to contour my nose. Bronzer, you actually want more of a warm shade. It's going to bring warmth to your face. And then contour is more of a cool tone shade, and it's going to bring more contour and chisel to your face. Today I'm going to use this beautiful gold shimmer shadow, and it is 108. It's like the rest of the palette. It's extremely, extremely subtle and natural. And I'm just applying a little to the inner eye. Let's see if you can see it really on the inner eye. So this one has it and this one doesn't. Can you tell the difference? I can barely tell the difference. Let's do the cheek. That's the official test, right? Okay, so this is without and this is with. I don't know what on earth this formula is, but it's wild. It's not a super powdery like white splotch on your face. This is more of a light catching formula, a beautiful like balmy light catching formula. To powder my face today, I'm just going to use a little bit of my Huda Beauty powder, and I'm going to tap under my eyes before I start because I really want to make sure that that concealer is blended in before I do this. I'm using a little poof, really getting up in there to set. I did a bad job at the top. You see that? That line right there? Because I didn't make sure it was blended at the top, so you can really see that crease up there. Set my face. I'm obviously gonna skip the cheeks because I really want that shine on my cheeks. I just think it looks really pretty. We're gonna use a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush setting spray. So let's go ahead and start off with the obvious. This palette costs around $88. The foundations do require that you mix them on your own. If you are a newer makeup wearer, I don't know if it's going to be that easy for you to actually mix and match. But what I found with these actual foundations is as long as you're in your shade range, then you should be perfectly fine. They are so workable and they kind of blend out very, very sheer. So if you do something wrong, it's not the end of the world. It is definitely not full coverage, but it is a beautiful sheer, dewy skin-like finish, and it's very comfortable. It doesn't feel oily, no, or tacky. It feels really good on the skin. It kind of feels like I'm not wearing makeup, but I feel very put together. So the concealer, I have pros and cons, okay? You only get 2 concealer shades, and it's not that I think the shade range is the problem. What I think is the problem is that what I found definitely being under these lights, I was kind of hot, so it did separate a little bit in my creases, so I had to make sure to blend it perfectly and then apply a little bit of powder. So the blushes, I think they actually are a really pretty shade. Like most cream blushes, it does seem to lose a little bit of that punch over time. I think it looks really, really pretty and really natural, but I did add like 2 or 3 layers of it, and it seems like the makeup kind of melts into the skin, which is beautiful, and it really helps with your blend, but it also makes it so you lose a little bit of that punchiness of the blushes. Because I used one of the brightest blushes in this palette, and It's not giving overwhelming blush. It is definitely giving a more natural finish. The last part that I want to talk about is the highlights. I have a love-hate relationship with the highlights, okay? Off camera, I end up dipping into this one and applying it in my inner corners. So if you were looking at me and you're like, oh, her inner corners are actually pretty highlighted, it's because I actually went in with the second shade. This shade, however, is more of a skin tone highlight for myself. It's more of that like super shine that you're getting on this cheek. The rest of the palette seems very straightforward to me, but I think these highlighters are a little bit more of a new formula that I've never used before. The highlight, it just blends and it melts into the skin so effortlessly that if you don't actually apply a lot, you don't really see it. This is what my palette looks like after I have done all my makeup. I don't think that it looks completely terrible, but there's definitely some weird stuff in here. I cannot wait to clean this palette when I am done with this video. I think this will be great when I go on vacation. And that's what I bought it for, is so I could have something to just smack all over my face. I think I'm gonna take this, and then of course I want to have a powder handy because I think that this would just completely move all over my face if I don't have any powders. Let's cut to the chase and do the wear test. This is what my face looked like at the beginning of the day, right after I got done filming. I want to say this is after 4 or 5 hours. I did notice I had a lot of settling in my smile line. In the future, I think I'm going to try a more gripping primer so that I don't have to worry about things sliding around. Something else I did notice is that there was a lot of creasing under my eyes. In the future, what I'm going to do is use a more hydrating concealer and then use this palette all over the face. But that's my wear test. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.